Hi guys, it's Austin here, and as we're getting quite close to Christmas now, I thought that I should do a little video showing you guys what the weather's likely to be, how it's likely to be around Christmas and New Year, but with a particular emphasis on whether it should be a cold or a mild Christmas. And even today, on December 20th, there is a lot of uncertainty regarding the temperature, precipitation, and it's also to do with the position of certain areas of low pressure. And it's actually very similar to last Christmas. If some of you are just like me and follow the weather every day, you'll remember the nightmare from last Christmas, and you'll also remember that we came off with a very, very mild Christmas and exceptionally wet as well. In my county, there were floods, and bridges got washed away, and it was just a very, very wet Christmas day. So let's hope for a better Christmas day this year. That's all I can say. But the models might not show what we want to see. So let's crack on with it then. So this is the chart from the GFS model. That's the Global Forecast System from America. And you can find it on meteocl.fr or weathercentral.de. But since weather is running very, very slowly, I'm going to use meteocl.fr. This is the date and time, Tuesday the 20th of December, and this is 7 p.m. These white lines that you see on the chart are called isobars. These are lines of equivalent pressure, measured in bars, as the name suggests. So this line, with number 1015 on it, shows the equivalent pressure of 1015 bars. And the lower you go, the lower the pressure. So if I zoom in here, you'll notice that we have a little bar here of 970 millibars. That's the center of an area of low pressure or a cyclone. And around these low pressures or cyclones, winds flow in an anti-clockwise direction, like that. So from this chart, we can see that an area of low pressure is sitting just to the northwest of Ireland, and we're pulling in a westerly wind. So it's mild, wet and windy. With low pressures, you get this unsettled winter that we often see in Irish winters. If I go down though, if I zoom in, and we can see that the further south we go, the pressure is increasing. So if I go down to the Mediterranean, you can see that there's an isobar here showing 1025 millibars. High pressure systems are over southern Europe, giving them a dry and warm Christmas period. And quite sunny as well. So with high pressures, you get dry weather, typically, varying cloud amounts, and quite a lot of sunshine, so that's really quite pleasant, and very little winds. Winds travel clockwise around an area of high pressure, so winds are coming up from the southwest into Iberia, up into Central Europe, and on into Asia and the Middle East. So if I run through it then, we're starting on Tuesday the 20th of December, as today. Move on to tomorrow. Low pressure sits to the north. We keep the westerly winds in. We keep going into Thursday, into Friday. More low pressure runs in. Wet, windy, unsettles. Christmas Eve, we keep the westerly winds. However, watch as we go into Christmas Day. The low pressure is moving a bit further eastwards towards the UK and into the North Sea. And that's allowing us to pull in the winds from the northwest a bit, so it could go a bit colder just in time for Christmas. As we go into Boxing Day or St. Stephen's Day, low pressure comes up from the south, and that could be very interesting because the winds flow anti-clockwise around the low pressure. So the northern side of the low pressure, where the cold air is, there'll be some precipitation there, and that could well fall as snow. So that's something I'll be keeping an eye on, but that may not even verify that little low pressure system right there on St. Stephen's Day. And that pulls away. We're back into the westerly winds, miles. Southwesterly winds, very mild there. Low pressure in the Atlantic, bringing up the mild southwesterly. We move on then into the latter stages of December. We go back. 29th of December, very stormy, mild, wet, windy. You can see the deep low pressure systems. New Year's Day, westerly winds, showers probably. And then we get more southwesterly winds, so that's the very, very mild one from the GFS. Not really what I want to see. Maybe some others want to see that. Because given the fact that we have an energy crisis, that could be a good thing after we've had all this cold weather, but as I'm a cold weather fan, I want to see some cold weather from these charts. Moving on then. This is the GEM, the Canadian model. Again, Metocielo.fr, starting on Tuesday, December 20th at 7 p.m. But scroll through, you can see again, low pressure coming off the Atlantic, keeping up going. Low pressure right through the country on Friday. Wet, windy, typical. Christmas Day. This doesn't look as exciting as the GFS. We get low pressure right over us. So that means showers or just spells of rain around it. Quite chilly, not that pleasant for a walk outside, but more pleasant for a film indoors. It's Boxing Day, where we get a bit of a high pressure system building to the south. So it was a bit drier and cooler, with maybe a bit of frost. And then to the 27th of December, we get southwesterly winds, mild air, and we go wet with low pressure in off the Atlantic. And we stay that way really until New Year's Eve, with an exceptionally mild southwesterly wind coming up away from the Azores with that high pressure and low pressure, dragging that mild air up. The ECMWF then, more much the same really, low pressure in off the Atlantic over the next few days. As we get into Christmas, we could get a bit cold there on Christmas Day on this run. Low pressure in the North Sea, up to the Norwegian Sea. We're pulling in this northerly wind, follow the isobars back, they're pointing way up into the Arctic. And Ireland goes really cold on Christmas Day. There could be a few wintry showers in the northwest with that one, but if you're in inland areas in the south and in the east, you'll probably just have a generally cold and dry day on Christmas Day. But it's better than what the GEM showed with just wash out really. Into Boxing Day, we get more cold weather, and then we get frost on the 27th with an area of high pressure over us. But then that goes into Europe, and low pressure goes to Iceland, and we bring in a typical westerly wind again. And we stay that way until the 30th of December, with further low pressure in the Atlantic waiting to come in with these big westerly winds. So those are the three main computer models shown: the GFS, the GEM, and the ECMWF. Now, let's move on to snow risk. So this is based on the GFS, and the scale is on the right. The percentage of likelihood that it could snow, and the deeper the colour, as you can see, the higher the likelihood. If I play it through into tomorrow, Wednesday, 21st of December, and we don't see much in the way of snow over us. Keep going, nothing much really showing up, but Scotland will definitely get some snow, as usual. And into Christmas Day, this run doesn't really show anything. You see a bit of a splodge there over Malin Derry, that sort of area, but it's only very, very small probability, like 5 or 10%. Into Scotland, though, you got pretty much a 100% chance of snow, so Scotland's going to get a white Christmas, for sure. Move on then. You can see, I did say we had that little low pressure coming up from the south, and hitting the cold air over us. Easterly winds over this part, southerly winds over this part. There'll be a divide, and you actually get some snowfall chances over Ireland, Northern England. Could get snow on Boxing Day. Could we? Oops, sorry now. Let me just get back out of that. We move on. The West looks best primed for this, actually. And actually, it goes further eastwards. Nice. So it could be in for a bit of a snow event there. As we move on, nothing much really. So, but Boxing Day could be a bit interesting. Finally, just have a look at what Meteorology has to say. So we currently have a yellow wind warning for Galway and Mayo. This was valid from Monday at 4:44 p.m. and it expired tomorrow morning. But well, by the time you're watching this, it probably would have expired. But I'm just showing you what they're saying. South and southwest winds will occasionally reach mean speeds of 50 to 60 kilometers per hour and gusts of 90 to 100 kmh in western areas mainly. Same warning for tomorrow, and just a few marine warnings for northern coastal areas and these western coastal areas as well. And finally, I'll just show you a run through of the air temperature over the next few days, because there'll be a lot of flipping and flopping between milder days and colder days, as we've got basically a battleground scenario. We've got mild air coming from the south, trying to offset cold air from the north, and where the boundary is, there'll be precipitation. And on the northern edge of the boundary, there could be snow, and where the boundary sits is crucial because it will determine where it will snow, if any snow. Anyway, you can see Thursday morning we got widespread frost across the Midlands, about freezing. Moving on to Thursday daytime, temperatures rise slowly up to around 3 or 4 degrees in the Midlands, up to around 7 degrees in the south. Going to Thursday night then, again it gets cold in the north, but it slowly gets milder in the south, and that's because we got cloud and rain there. That pushes northwards, bringing milder air with it. So you can see, cold, mild. It'll go colder again, probably just after Christmas, as I saw with that chart. So Christmas Eve, mild, fairly mild in the south, bit cooler further north. And as we go into Christmas Day then, eventually start in the north, especially in the northwest. But as we go into Boxing Day, you can see -3, -4, way widely across the country. So very frosty, severe frost to start with Boxing Day. Very cold Boxing Day. We do Tuesday, quite cold. But Wednesday we get milder. You can see how that works. We went from mild to cold and mild to cold, and that's simply because we're in a battleground, between mild and colder air. Mild air trying to come up from the south, but also you've already stopped the cold air trying to come in from the north, and there'll be a boundary. And as I said, where it sits will determine who sees snow, and there could be quite a lot of it around in the next few days if we get a lot of precipitation with these colder air masses. So watch this space. Merry Christmas, and let's hope for some snugter or some snow. Bye for now.